Welcome to Exploring the Miracle with Third Day. I am Al Scope. Here are the fans, and this is Third Day. We got Ty, we've got Dave, Mac, and Mark, and thank you guys for coming to our New York studios. And we're about to share some music that, unless you snuck into the studio with them, no one's heard yet. This is kind of a treat.
It's exciting.
The album is called Miracle.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of people who are really eager to hear it, and they've come from all over the, New York, New Jersey, Connecticut area to our studios, and we really appreciate you guys for making the time, too, because to bring the music before anyone else can hear it's what we like to do around here. So
Very cool. Thanks for having us.
So obviously, the questions are going to come from fans. We had Twitter and Facebook questions come in from all over the place. We have questions from the audience members here, too. But I do want to get the ball rolling because the album we've waited over 2 years for. It's been a while, right?
Yeah.
We've been kind of hungry for some Third Day music, right, guys? Yes.
They're afraid to talk. They don't want to.
Just prompting them along. That's all right. So with each new album, is it like starting fresh, or are there just a whole bunch of pent-up ideas that you never got to try out on the last album? Or is it a little bit of both?
It's somewhat a little bit of both, but for the most part, it's rare for us to get an idea from a previous record that we didn't work on. We actually did that on this record with one song. I forget what the song was. We took a song that we had worked on a few years back and never completely finished it, and we presented it. Ty's got a silly look on his face.
Like that we did.
Yeah, you're the one who brought up the idea. It was
just from earlier in the.
Oh, it was?
Yeah, it was from earlier in the recording because I think pretty much if we actually record a song and for a record and it doesn't make it, a lot of bands just kind of, they won't let it go and they'll keep working on it. We're kind of like, if it didn't make it on one record, it ain't gonna make it on the next one. It's like there was probably a reason, and we tend to.
Yeah, I remember now. So it was a song that we worked on.
I'll bring it up because I have ones that I like that the rest of the guys shoot down. I just kind of keep on bringing it up, and then remind me. No, if it wasn't good enough then, it's not good enough now. Ty, go away. We're gonna work on something fresh.
When you make your solo record, man.
But we do. I think for this record, it was just one of those, like, we didn't want it to just be the next Third Day record. We really wanted it to be something fresh. We wanted it to be kind of a new direction for us. At the same time, we wanted it to be something that our fans would grab onto. We don't, sometimes I think artists and bands, they put out records and it's like, don't you like me as a fan anymore? Why would you make this record? So we didn't want to do that. We really appreciate our fans. We want to meet them where they are, but we definitely wanted to take them somewhere new. And that was kind of the goal when we started the project, and we feel like we really got there.
And I think this record, more than any that we've ever made, or at least that I can remember or think of, we definitely started from scratch. We didn't really have any song ideas going into it. We had some ideas, but not anything that we had developed or worked on very much.
Yeah, it was a little scary, too, to walk in and just kind of go. I remember several times starting a new session after a few weeks of not recording anything, and we would get in there, and the producer would say, all right, what do we have? And we're kind of looking around going,
It's like the teacher saying, where was your homework?
Yeah, it was kind of like, it was like, make it up on the spot, do a book report right here on the spot. It was very, it was kind of intimidating, but, sometimes the coolest stuff comes out of those moments where you haven't pre-planned it and you haven't had any kind of preconceived notion of what the song's going to be. And in fact, our album Offerings from, 12, 13 years ago, a lot of that was just sort of, I don't want to say on the fly. Mac had some ideas, and all the guys had ideas, but nothing that we had really developed. And I think there's more of that on this album than we've had in a long time. And it's really cool when you kind of listen back and you go, man, this started from really nothing.
It's very scary. It's very scary to be in that place of going, man, we've got a studio that we've got time, and the producer's spending money and time to be here. And what are we going to do next?
Yeah. I definitely find that all the themes we talk about in our music that we ask our audience to live out in their lives, things like faith,
trust,
and hope, and trust, they're all things that always come into the recording of a new record. We have to have a lot of faith. And we learn that every day starts with prayer for us in the studio, and just going, God, and we want creativity, we want inspiration. And before every song that we've ever recorded, we go, God, we ask that you would use this song to touch people and to minister to people. And then from there, we're able to kind of hold it with open hands and trust that God will show up. And he's been so faithful. This is our 20th year as a band. And I think, beyond, people ask, how do you guys stay together so long? I hope I'm not stealing someone's question, but the short answer is God keeps showing up. And and that's what keeps us going.
Well, that's kind of Todd Church's question. He was on Twitter, and he said, what's the main inspiration behind getting this album started? Why Miracle? And because we're going to go into the song, we'll remind everyone why we're all here, the song that we have been hearing on the message, I Need a Miracle. So why Miracle, and how does that theme the whole album?
Well, I think for us initially, to answer the first part of your question, the inspiration for us, and this is not the spiritual answer that a lot of people are looking for, but the inspiration was more of a musical inspiration, and then the lyric and what the songs are developing into, that kind of comes a little bit later. It started out for us really being able to work with our producer. He's a guy named Brendan O'Brien, and Brendan is one of the most famous rock producers of our time, and in the past 20 years or so, he's produced a lot of platinum and gold records for a lot of great artists, and a lot of records that we listen to as a band, and
a lot of artists that have their own stations on Sirius XM,
exactly.
like Bruce Springsteen and Pearl Jam.
So when we got the chance to kind of rewind a little bit, we were on tour in the fall of last year, and the record company, God bless them, as we say down south, bless their heart, they're just doing their job. I'm not blaming them, but they came to us and said, okay, guys, it's time to make another record. And we went, why? We don't have any song ideas. Why do we
like this one?
Yeah. And so they just, that's their job, is to kind of spur us and to keep us moving, to kind of doing records through the years. And so, and we want to do that, but at the same time, we're not building shelves here. We want to be inspired. We want to have songs that come from our hearts. We want to record those. We don't want to record a record just because it's time to. And so we were kind of going back on the road, going, we're not ready to make a record. We don't really have any song ideas at this point. We know we will soon, but we don't have anything now. Not really inspired. And then all of a sudden, we get a call from Brendan O'Brien saying, hey, I'm interested in working with you guys. That was inspiration to us. Now, like I said, that may not be the spiritual answer that everybody wants us to give, but that was enough for us to spur us to go and start working on some songs and trying to be the best band that we can be and try to write the best songs that we can possibly write. And everything kind of fell in from there.
Well, and also just to expound a little bit on it, we were at a place about a year ago of it was a little scary when the label did come to us and say, we need to start talking about a new album. We were all not in a very inspired place, as Mac was saying, and I remember us getting together on the road. We were on the road. We were tired. We were just kind of a little burned out, but still, trying to give it everything we had each night. And I remember us getting together in the dressing room and praying very specifically that God would just give us something it was almost like our prayer of I need a miracle. We needed sort of a miracle. We needed something to inspire us, as Mac was saying, and to get us, just to give us a little bit of a catalyst to get going and to be creative. And we didn't know what that was, but we kind of presumed that it might be an individual, a person, a producer, somebody that would sort of come along and usher us into that. And it was really cool. And this has been a recurring theme through the past 20 years as a band, is every time we've prayed specifically for things, it just seems like God has opened doors very quickly. And that's not some name it, claim it kind of theology. It's just something we've noticed, and we're incredibly grateful for it. So it was only a couple of weeks later, after praying this together and just collectively agreeing that we were in a dry place, we got the call from Brendan, and it was just it felt like our miracle at that moment.
Nice. We are with Third Day. We are exploring the miracle on Sirius XM The Message. I'm Al Scope, and let's jump into I Need a Miracle, a song that got its origins not too far from here in New Jersey, I understand.
Yeah, absolutely. Right? We were we had recorded, if I'm remembering right, we recorded what we thought was the whole record. And the label came to us, as they always do. It's their job. Hey, we need a couple more songs, guys. We need a couple more song ideas to, that maybe could be played on the radio. And I really wasn't at a place personally to try to chase down a single. I didn't mind going back in the studio, but I thought I'm not going to try to play this game of putting together, this magical formula to make a hit song. Well, I'm waiting for some inspiration and, something to come from the heart, something to come from God. And we went just a couple of days after we had gotten that call from the label, and we played it in New Jersey. And we met this couple, an older couple, after the show, and one day hopefully we'll get to see them again sometime. And they shared a story of how their son, a few years back, about 7 years ago, was really struggling with depression. He had struggled with depression his whole life. And their son had driven deep into the woods somewhere in New Jersey, and he was going to end his life. And as he's going through that process, he turns on the radio, and he hears our song, Cry Out to Jesus. And he literally did that. He prayed and just asked God to bring him hope and to bring him faith, and his life totally changed. And so, in fact, they were saying it's changed so much that he's not at the concert tonight. He wanted to be here, but he's on a mission trip overseas serving, less fortunate people. So that was kind of in my head, and when I went back home, I had to come up with a song to kind of go in the studio and to work on. And as I got home, I was just walking through the house one day, and this line just popped in my head. It was the first line of the verse. It's the first. I wasn't even looking to work on a song at the time, but it went. Well, late one night she started to cry and thought he ain't coming home. And that spurred my interest. I was like, wow, that's pretty cool. I like that melody. I like that line. Where did that come from? And then I started asking myself the question, all right, why is she crying? Why is he not coming home? What is this couple? What are they going through? That's, what's the story here? And so as I'm asking myself that question, I start thinking about that story that the couple from New Jersey had shared with us about their son. And so this is kind of, that kind of inspired the story of this song. And I love the song. I've told these guys, it's one of my top 5 favorite songs that I've ever written, and I've written a lot of songs. For a lot of different reasons, it's one of my favorites. One is that it's a story, and I don't write a lot of story songs. And I love those story songwriting artists like Bruce Springsteen and Tom Petty, who can kind of keep you, attracted into a song and listening to see what's going to happen. And so it's rare for me to do that. So I love that it's telling a story, but I also love that even though it's telling the story, in the chorus, the lyric is, well, no matter who you are, no matter what you've done, there will come a time when you can't make it on your own. And I think every single one of us can relate to that. Every single one of us in life is going to come to a point, if we haven't already, where we know, listen, I'm going through this hard time. I'm going through this struggle. I cannot do this. And for some people, they're going to be, will turn to a drug. Some will turn to alcohol. Some will turn to, whatever, an addiction, sports. Some will turn to a relationship. And for me in my life, I've turned to God and have my faith help me through that struggle and through that hard time. And so it's a song that I really wasn't expecting to happen. God showed up again and brought us a miracle and brought us this song. And I really look forward to the song going out and people hearing the song and being encouraged.
Exploring the Miracle, third day on Sirius XM, The Message, and now you're thinking, wait, I've heard that song already. What are we exploring? We're getting there, right?
Yeah.
We're getting there. This album is, you're going to hear it before anybody else, so that is something pretty cool. Guys, this is one of the Twitter questions from Heather, and she wants to know if any of you have already had an I Need a Miracle moment.
It's a great question. Well, I mean, we've... in comparison to the song, nothing like that. But for just as individuals and as a band, we've had a lot of miracles. I mean, we already mentioned a couple as far as bringing this record to being brought together and how it worked out. But even from the very beginning, there have been, like I said, in comparison to these dramatic things that have happened in people's lives and these stories that we heard, maybe not such a big deal, compared to those. But for us to even how we've been together for 20 years, that's a miracle in itself. And how we got together as a band in the first place. I mean, we didn't know each other at all. We lived on opposite sides of the city in Atlanta. And so just how God kind of orchestrated that and for us to come together, that was a miracle. Just little things that we've prayed for through the years. God has continually showed up and proven himself faithful time and time again.
Yeah, I think that what everyone can relate to is that relationships are really hard. And all of us for us in this band, we've been a band together for 20 years. And then some of the friendships even started before that with David and I, with Mac and Mark. So to have those friendships last all these years is a miracle after miracle after miracle, because there's just so much in life that wants to tear you apart, especially when you are in confined spaces. And then the other thing, I was the last guy of the band to just hit a milestone of 15 years of marriage. So we're all now over 50, each one, married to our spouses for over 15 years. And, anyone who's married out there knows that you don't make it 15 years without a miracle. I mean, just statistically, the odds are, to take 4 guys and they all get married as young guys that don't know what they're doing. And then for those marriages to last, that we've all seen God's work in keeping our marriages intact. And now with children, there's so many times that, when we're on the road, that we just completely have to rely on God for safety for our kids, and for just in so many different things where we've had friends be the miracle in our lives. We've had and every one of us have times where things happen at home, and you call on a friend at 3 a.m. and he comes and he turns off your water main in your house so it stops flooding because your wife doesn't know how to do it. Stuff like that is, very practical, random practical miracles. But for me, and that's, I don't know how this will live out, but there's those times where it's just absolutely God showing up, and all you can say is that is a supernatural miracle. But there's also times, think about that, there's kids all over the world that are living in horrible conditions, and they're praying every night, God, would you send a miracle? Would you send a miracle in a person to come help me, to bring me food, to bring me shelter? And Third Day fans have been the miracle for so many people. We've worked with an organization called World Vision throughout our careers, and over 25,000 children have been sponsored at our shows. So our fans have been the miracle for other people's lives, and just in so many ways like that. We're really excited about this season. I don't know how we don't have a script here. I don't know how the season's going to manifest, but I know that sort of one miracle kind of begets another, and just God's going to show up and do really amazing things.
It's The Message with Third Day. We are exploring the miracle, and how about now a complete 180 with a song entitled "Hit Me Like a Bomb."
It's hip hop, right? Was this the hip hop version?
Yeah. No, this is the first song on the album, on the Miracle album, and it's. I don't know. I don't know if I even talk about it. It's just fun to listen to.
I set it up the other day. I was like, this kind of song talks about how, you become a Christian and how God, completely messes up your life.
In a good way.
Yeah.
In a good way.
Maybe.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Third Day, exploring the miracle on The Message. Hit Me Like a Bomb. I love song titles that just throw you for a loop, and you have no idea what to
several
expect.
on this album.
There you go. Guys, thank you for spending the time. Fans, so far so good? Yeah.
All right.
I am Al Scope, and we have our first victim, fan, with a question. Kim, please approach Third Day.
Hi. You already explained to us how you've been inspired to write the themes of some of your songs, but my question is about the creative process that you use for writing songs. I'm the supervisor of art music for the 4th largest school district in New Jersey, so I see a lot of high school students in Music Theory 1 trying to get a process for writing songs. What do you do that could inspire them to write songs?
Well, we're pretty simple-minded guys, and we don't have a real.
It's not complex.
It's not a very secret strategy. It basically comes down to if any one of us has a song idea, which could either be a complete thought, which is rare, or it could be a chorus melody kind of idea with a few la-da-das and a couple of lyrics that, may or may not stick. It kind of runs the gamut, but the song, that idea is presented, and the rest of us, having done this together for so long, kind of know where our place is going to be in that. And it's like a snowball effect, and you start off with something very, very elementary, and we put a very basic song arrangement. The typical pop rock arrangement is just a verse, chorus, a bridge or a solo, and then a couple of outro choruses, and you're done. And we sort of start there, but then we try to tweak it out, and it always takes on a new life of its own as we begin to record it and re-record it and start overdubbing it. And so yeah, there's not like one formula to it, but it's just kind of like sort of a common sense approach,
A lot of times it starts out just as a melody in my head, and these guys have heard me say this a million times, but I look at songwriting, a lot of times it's like fill in the blank crossword puzzle. When you're doing a crossword puzzle and you've got your word for 5 across, but you're trying to figure out the 12 down. And so when you've got one word or one line or one sentence, that kind of helps you shape in the rest of it. What's going to make sense to go with those words or those, and musically it's the same way. When you have kind of a melody, what makes sense what feels right to go next with it.
We could bring in Will Shortz and just kind of make the process a lot quicker.
We could bring in what?
Will Shortz, like the New York Times crossword puzzle
guru.
Yeah.
He writes all of them.
Don't they do crossword puzzles with computers now anyway?
Yeah.
I don't know. The way you're giving your answer, it sounds like if you weren't doing music, you could be doing auto body work.
Yeah.
Shape it
No,
just this way.
I
and
actually
that way.
think it's not that it's painting by numbers. I think what it is instead of a lot of times what you have is if an individually a song, whoever starts a song will kind of take it all the way home, and then when they bring it to the band, it's like, okay, everyone just sort of play along. And what I think Mac does a great job is when we're writing together is Mac will start an idea and he'll kind of purposely just sort of put it on hold, and we get just enough to get the band all excited about it. And then we're able to all develop the song. So then we kind of start with a lyric, but maybe it's just an idea or a concept or just one line. Then musically, we'll tend to just kind of finish out the song. We'll make the song, and then so it goes individual to group. Then we give it back to Mac and say, now finish the song. And then for him, he finds himself freshly inspired because he's not just sitting by himself with his guitar, but he gets to listen to now a really great sounding track. And then he's able to then kind of spend time with it and finish it out. And then it comes back to the band and we all get to be involved with mixing it up. So it's really a unique process of individual work and collaboration that kind of works for Third Day. I don't know that other bands do it that way, but it's kind of worked for us, so we're not really going to mess with it.
And then just maybe advice for a student that's interested in getting into songwriting. Something David mentioned earlier just kind of made me think of this is all songs have an underlying structure, and I think that's probably the hardest part about learning how to write songs is to really get a sense of that structure. And so I would just recommend listening to a whole lot of music, a lot of different styles, a lot of different genres of music, and as you listen to music, just break it down and go, okay, well, here's the verse, here's the chorus, and you start to get a sense of you're trying to say a whole lot in 2 minutes and 30 seconds or whatever it is, and so you really want to try to hit those spots to where the song has an ebb and flow. And then Mac alluded to just the idea of just starting with just something that inspires you, anything to keep you from having to stare at a blank piece of paper or computer screen or sit there. It could be strumming chords on a guitar. It could be something that you read may inspire you to come up with a song title idea. But anything you can start with and then just build from that. And that's what we do as a band is we just start with an idea and we just keep. It's like a snowball that starts off small and it just gets bigger and bigger as you work on it, and hopefully at the end of it you have a good song.
Or a snowman.
Or a snowman. Either way, it's fun.
Well, thank you, Kim, for your question. And we're with Third Day, exploring the miracle. Now, who's ready for some Third Day worship music? All right. Your love is like a river. You want to tell us about that?
Ty, why don't you talk about that one?
Yeah, well, this one, to the last point, we kind of break out of the normal typical song arrangement, I think, on this song. So this would be Exhibit A, but it's a song that when I know Mac was playing for it, he had just kind of this first idea of your love is like a river, and and kind of like kind of taken from the Psalms, right? And from that specific idea, or is it just kind of
No,
fresh?
it's taken actually from the story of Jesus sharing with the woman at the well, and she's he says, "Can you give me a drink of water?" And she's basically saying, "Why are you asking me?" And he said, "Well, if you knew who you were talking to, I could give you living water that will flow out of your heart that's never ending." And so that's really where it comes from of when we accept Christ into our lives. There's this overflow that will never stop. And so when I started out the song, I knew I wanted to do that as the first chorus, but then I wanted to kind of change the metaphor or analogy. I don't know what the right word would be.
Either one is fine.
But to change the metaphor on the second chorus and the third chorus to something different. So I'm thinking, okay, I want to say your love is like a river flowing from my heart, and then the second chorus I want to say your love is like something else, and then the third one say your love is like another thing. And Ty felt like he's like, why don't you just stick with one thing? Why do you have to change it? But I slowly
And that's part of
convinced him.
that's part of, I think, it's a good, healthy back and forth, because it's like Mac kind of, he has to, well, it's not bickering. It's like he's got to, if Mac
gotta
can't
sell
sell
it.
us,
Right.
he's not going to sell anyone else. And part of it, and Mac's very open to it, but as he was, and, I kind of, and that's how I think all of us feel by it. Like, if we're not inspired by it, then we're not going to put it out. It's like, if I don't play it for my wife and she doesn't tear up, and if my kids don't love it, then it's like, it's not going to make it very far. And so this is one, as Mac was playing, and even as we're just working on the music, at first I was pushing back. I'm like, hey man, this is such a great concept. Your love is like a river. Then maybe you could talk about, the currents and the, whatever, so, and Mac's like, yeah, why don't you just leave it to the professional? So, Mac starts going down these other ways. I'm like, hey man, it doesn't even rhyme. I don't know what you're talking about. And but the end result of this song, I won't give it away. I'll let you hear it. But the end result is just, as he kind of explores more metaphors, you just get a fuller picture of the characteristics of God and the different ways that it manifests in our lives. And the result is, there's a lot of times third day worship songs. I don't know if they can't see me doing the quotes on the radio, but third day worship songs, unquote. A lot of times, people tell us they're not really worship songs because they don't fit whatever criteria they're supposed to fit these days in modern worship, and to which we say, okay. But for us, it's like, this is a song that makes me want to worship God. And so that meets my criteria.
We are exploring the miracle with Third Day on Sirius XM, The Message. I need to paint the picture, guys, because about half of y'all were just eyes closed, this cheerful grin, and the other half had the head bobbing.
Yeah.
The other half was
good
good.
balance.
I like
It's good
that.
balance.
There are different ways to hear a song for the first time.
Yeah,
as we've
right?
discovered. Yes.
And here we are in this, wacky glass soundproof room, and
I need to paint a picture to all the listeners because we are in this glass encased room,
They call it the fishbowl.
the fishbowl,
For a reason.
and there are people walking. There's 2 floors, 2 levels, so people are walking by, looking in at us. And does anybody feel like they're an animal at the zoo? Anybody else? Yeah.
Yeah.
It's more like a terrarium.
we'll
than a
be serving
fishbowl, if you
bananas
think-
later.
Yeah, I didn't feel that way till people started throwing food at us. Yeah. Just all of a sudden.
That's a third reaction you can have when you first hear a song. Is you can throw things at the artist.
yeah, exactly.
So we're hearing some tracks from the brand new album Miracle before anybody else, and before we get to the next track, I have a Twitter question that I wanted to ask, and I'm glad I have these wonderful fans of yours and of The Message to submit these questions that are way better than the ones I could have come up with. This is from Nicole, and she says, she asks, if there are only one song that you can sing and the whole world had to stop and listen, what would it be?
That's a great.
That's
That's
a-
a
that's a
really
great-
great question.
I'm
Great
telling you.
question.
See,
That's a great
I should just
question.
hang it up.
Nicole,
'cause-
if you're listening, you should be a professional question asker. Is that the right way to say that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly
that's the
that.
Ask her.
title.
That's a great question because normally someone would kind of somebody's phone's going off.
We got a bootleg going on here.
Normally someone would ask that question saying, "What's your favorite song?" or "What song in the world do you want to sing for everybody?" Whatever. But that's an interesting way to put it. Just to ask the question, if the world had to stop and listen, what would you sing? And I know she asked for one, but I'm going to give 2 because I've always said that my favorite song is "Jesus Loves Me," and I know it's a children's song, but there's so much truth in, yes, Jesus loves me. Yes, Jesus loves me. And so there's that. And there's so much truth in that I want people to hear. And there's a song that somebody that we all in this band look up to, one of my favorite writers, if not my favorite writer of all time, is a guy named Rich Mullins. And he wrote so many great songs, and there's one in particular called Hold Me Jesus that is just an amazing worship song, and just comes from a great place of brokenness and needing to be held by God. And I would probably sing that. Maybe we should cover that one day. Hold Me Jesus.
Let me tweak the question. What if, so maybe this is what was asked, but if not, I'll clarify. What if you had to pick a song that you've written, you had the opportunity to play it to the largest, like you have a 4-minute spot, you're playing on the Olympic closing ceremonies.
Right.
You get to pick a spot. What do you want the world to hear as your message in those 4 minutes?
Man, that's, I don't know.
Well, everyone's just doing my job today.
Yeah.
I would say
Hit me like a bomb.
Yeah. In the past, I would have probably said a song called "I've Always Loved You." It's from our third record, Time. Something about the song that I really love. It might be my favorite Third Day song of all time. But man, now if you're setting it up in that, in that way, I would want us to kind of have a really rock song. I'd want to make sure everybody knows we rock. So I don't know, maybe Tunnel. I don't know.
Yeah, Tunnel would be good because you could hit them with the rock as opposed to a bomb. You don't want to do that.
No.
You can hit them with a rock, and then I think the message is one that I think that everybody can relate to, that everybody goes through hard times, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel. So it might be a good balance of all the goals to meet in an Olympic performance.
Very nice.
Yes.
We're at Third Day. We're exploring the miracle on Sirius XM, The Message. And so we've finally have all shaken off the shock factor of hit me like a bomb. Then we went to Your Love is Like a River. Now it's time to go kicking and screaming.
Oh, yeah. All right. This is definitely one of my favorites. Yeah. This is a song that is kind of, when we worked with Brendan O'Brien, our producer, I really, honestly, going into the album, I thought it's a lot different than I thought it was going to be musically. And a lot of these song ideas that we were coming up with were very Southern, very American rock kind of thing. And he kind of, I don't even know what direction he took us, but in a very different direction, very different than we've gone down before. And it's interesting because I think the record is definitely a Third Day record. I think it's not something that's going to scare away our Third Day fans like you guys here in the studio audience. But at the same time, it's in a step in a different direction, that you're going to hear some sounds and hear some ideas that you've never heard from us before. And that's really interesting for us because, we've been around, as we said earlier, 20 years as a band. We've made 12 or so albums, and to try to keep doing this, and after all those years, and to keep it fresh for ourselves, much less our fans, it's something we strive for. So I think we definitely found that great balance on this album called Miracle.
Something I'm proud of for this track of Kicking and Screaming is a lot of times to get it to be fresh for a band that's been around for 20 years, a band just has to keep on adding stuff to it. And it's almost like that original band that you love just gets kind of hidden among big string sections and extra loops and drums and guest musicians and all that stuff. And what I love about this whole album is like the album, I was kind of typing up all the musician credits and was like, okay, it was Third Day, and our producer played the keyboards, and our live guy came in on a couple songs on the keyboards, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah.
And this song's such a great example because it's so fun and it's so fresh. It's nothing we've ever done, yet you hear it and you can picture each member of the band playing their part. There's not a lot going on, but it just has this fresh sound that's unlike anything we've ever done.
Nice. That is awesome. Third Day, we are exploring the miracle on The Message, and I ain't kicking and screaming nowhere. I'm saying right here, this is good stuff. And,
Did everyone agree with our assessment of that song? It's just fun. It's just different and fun.
Yeah.
And it's got a great beat, and the kids can really bug out to it. It has an innocence like it's like American Bandstand, just kind of simple, but it's fun. That I like.
what's the last song any of your kids, for better or for worse, got you into?
Oh man,
Oh man.
it's probably some VeggieTales or Wiggles song.
Yeah.
And you can't get it out of your head.
No, you can't. It's just irritating.
I did have my 6-year-old daughter is cheerleading, and she came. She said, "Hey, Mom, Dad, I need to download a song so I can learn my cheer routine for the halftime. Can you go to iTunes and download it?" I was like, "Well, what is it?" It's by Pitbull. And I was like, "I don't know about that. Maybe we'll do it on Rhapsody."
Well, you guys haven't done a cover song on an album in an awful long while.
Yeah, it has been a while.
And that ends now.
Yes, it does. When,
This reign of originality ends now.
well, we don't like to do a lot of covers. Whenever we do a cover, most of the time it's because there's a song that we hear and we go, we have to do that song. There have been great songs that have been big hits for us, like Agnus Dei and You Are So Good to Me, and I can't think of any.
These Thousand Hills, Saved.
Creed, yeah. So there've been a handful of through the 20 years of us being a band that we went, man, that song would be perfect for us. And we don't do it normally on a regular studio album. Usually it's for, a different kind of album that we would do. And we ended up, we recorded the record. We needed a couple more songs. And the very first time that I got together with our producer, Brendan O'Brien, and presented the very first song to him, after I was done singing, he looked at me and he said, you have kind of you have a very Cat Stevens kind of quality in your voice. And I used to hear that a long time ago, before my voice really changed and got stronger as a singer. People would say all the time to me, "You sound like Cat Stevens." I never really knew what they were talking about because I didn't know many of his songs. And so years later, of course, I listened to his records and love his music, but I didn't know that at the time when I was younger. And so when Brendan said that, it was kind of in the back of my brain. And then when it came time to need another song, I said, why don't we do a Cat Stevens cover? I've always wanted to do that, and this is a great opportunity to do that, and kind of killed two birds with one stone. We needed something that was a very worshipful kind of song, and I thought doing a cover would be cool. So it kind of filled a lot of voids that we had for the record. And so we went back and listened to the original song, Morning Is Broken, that was a big hit for him back in the 70s. And we sat down one day in the studio and got to work on it, and it turned out pretty great, I think.
Yeah. It's The Message on Sirius XM, and we are exploring the miracle with Third Day. Incidentally, those are the final notes on the album. That is the last track. And
then it starts right back over with "Hit Me Like a Bomb."
And that brings us back
Because that CD ain't ever coming out of your CD player.
And that brings us back
Except
to
to listen
Doe.
to the radio.
We have been. Have we all been having a good time here?
Yeah.
Now this special is airing as part of the Third Day 3 for All, which is going to be airing the entire weekend leading up to the release date of your album, which is November 6th. And
Election Day, by the way.
Vote for Third Day.
Vote for Third Day.
I thought people could use some songs of encouragement and hope.
You need buttons. You need to hand out buttons.
Yes.
Don't blame me. I voted for Third Day. Kind of thing.
But it's going to be a great. You're going to be hearing a track every hour. All the tracks. Oh, there's all 12 of them actually. Which sadly we don't have time for all 12 of them, but we're gonna hear a couple. We're gonna one more before we get out of here, and before we do that, we also have. The album's called Miracle, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
we've also been having stories come in of people giving their miracles and telling miracles that they're either asking for or that have happened to them. And from the crowd, introduce yourself, sir.
I'm Esteban Moretz, and I don't really have like a giant miracle, but I have the miracle of every day that my Heavenly Father, continues to love me more and more. And even though I know that I disappoint him sometimes and that I mess up, he always comes along and picks me back up and takes me in his arms. And it's a miracle that he keeps me, and I'm his sheep and he's my shepherd. And, he just longs to be with me and keep me close to him and, do his will.
That's awesome.
That's awesome. That's great.
Thanks, man. Thank you.
I think it is. I love that. I think it's important for us to remember that the fact that we're even here on this earth that God even created us. I mean, that you are a thought of God, that you were an idea that God had, and he made you in his image, in his likeness, and it wasn't a mistake, and he knows everything about you. He knows your innermost being. He knows why you do the things you do, and he knows why you don't do the things you should do. He understands you completely, and he loves you where you are, and this is for everybody, and that is a miracle. And I think when we realize that, and we're brought to grips with the reality of just how unfathomable his grace is in our lives, even when we don't even feel like it's there. We feel like we're just constantly messing up. Just to know that we are made in his image, and that we have been bought with a price, and that he loves us as we are, and he's working in us. And Mac shares all the time a verse from Jeremiah that just talks about God has plans to prosper us and not to harm us, to give us a hope and a future. And that's a miracle that he would choose us. And,
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, thanks for sharing that.
That's awesome.
It's really great.
Well, and thank you guys for sharing this album and for making it in the first place. Come on. The album is Miracle. November 6th, Election Day, is the day that it's out. And one last track that you wanted to share from it is For the Rest of My Life. Why don't you tell us about that?
Yeah, that's actually one thing that Brendan, our producer, really helped us with on this album. We've been making music together for 20 years. This is, depending on who you ask and which albums you count and don't count, this is like our 11th album that we've made, studio album. And so we've been doing this for a long time, and we want to sound different, but a lot of times we don't exactly know what to do to sound different. So it's great to have a producer, to have somebody with an outside voice that a lot of times, even if we're not really sure where he's taking it, we just trust that he's got a better idea than we do. And this song, For the Rest of My Life, is definitely maybe the most dramatic case of that on the album, where I actually had an idea that I brought to the band, and it was based on, I think it's the last passage in Psalm 23, and in one of the translations it says, just basically, I'll love you for the rest of my life. And I thought that was a really cool thought. And then, as you think about the Psalms, to me, I've heard people say it before that it's like the blues of the Bible. So I was like, how cool would that be to kind of have this really dark, kind of bluesy sound and set this Psalm type idea to that. And so we started working on it, and Brendan, our producer, came and he's like, I like that song, but that's not how it goes. And we were all like, what are you talking about? But he did a really good job of just, encouraging us, okay, you can have a song that's a ballad, but it doesn't mean that it has to drag and make people want to go to sleep. And so he really encouraged Ty and David and myself to just pick up the energy and to really have this, instead of just this bluesy kind of draggy song, it had this really cool groove to it. And Mac did a great job with the melody and helping me finish the song with the chorus and everything. And what we wound up is this really cool song. That this is one of my first 2 or 3 songs that I like to play for people that haven't heard the album before. And since you guys haven't heard the album before, let's let it be one of the first few songs we play for y'all. So here you go, For the Rest of My Life.
Third Day and Miracle, the message on Sirius XM. What do you think, guys? Come on. 4 stars? 4 stars?
Yeah.
That's 4 stars out of 10. Is that okay with you guys? Is that all right? No. Guys, thank you so much for coming and sharing the music with us, and thank you, fans, for coming and just being a part of the Message family. We really appreciate that too, guys. That's it. You gotta go now. The album's out. Go take some time off. Do the holidays, right?
Yeah, kind of.
Kind of. You gonna take a little bit of a break?
Now it's time for us to go to work. Now the album's out, we got to go.
Go sell a few.
Go do some shows.
I like this format, though, with the audience. It feels like one of those infomercials that comes on at about 2 a.m.
Yeah.
And
all you need now is a blender.
So yeah, now's the part where we're gonna tell you, that we're gonna slash the price in half.
Throw in a super chamois.
Yeah.
I can assure you, no
2
operators
easy
are standing
payments.
Third Day
by.
Miracle
one really
does
difficult
come
payment.
with a free chamois.
Yeah.
So
Guys, thank you again.
Thank
Let's hear it for Third Day. Yeah.
This is Mac Powell from Third Day, celebrating today's release of our new album, Miracle, with a Third Day 3-for-all on Sirius XM, The Message. Well, this song almost didn't get recorded for the album. We had basically finished recording what we thought was the record. And then our good friend, our A&R guy, Blaine Barkus at the label said, I really think you guys should record one or two more songs and see what you come up with. Just the week before, we had met a couple in New Jersey, and they shared a story, great story with us of how their son a few years ago had been dealing with depression his whole life and drove off, as the song says, deep into the woods, and he was going to end his life. Turn on the radio just to have some support there while he was, some peace there. And as he turns it on, he hears the song "Cry Out to Jesus," and he literally did that, and he gave his life to God and just changed his life. That story kind of played through into the writing of this song, "I Need a Miracle." And I love the song in the sense that I think every single one of us, no matter where we are in life, can say that at one time or another, that we need a miracle. We need someone to help us through those hard times and those struggles.